Hey, make sure you subscribe to Lamb Chopper.
Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to the show. I thought today we'll just have a chilled out day and dial in some Dethklok tones using the Boss Katana Mark II. And I thought it's the perfect video for anyone that's trying to learn those sweet picked arpeggios like Brendan Smalls did in Dethklok. Just stick around and we'll talk about that later as well. And I've been meaning to ask for a while what amp you guys would like me to see get next, just so we can dial in different tones, whether it's like an Orange Crush 120 or the Marshall SC20, the little JCM 800, or an Origin or something like that. But I don't know if there is an amp you guys would want me to buy and just test out all the tones and see how far it goes. Well, leave it in the comments and we'll work it out. So I guess the show is coming along where I want it to be now. After I had that break for a while and I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do. But I knew I had to change the show to be sustainable, to make it a little bit more fresh, to enjoy things. We've got the softbox lights now so that I can film at any time and not have to worry about light through the window. And I recently got a new Mac Mini, so my videos are in 1080p. We've got Final Cut Pro on it. And videos are no longer such a tedious task just to go through and try and render things without seeing that crazy color wheel just going around and around. And I'm happy as well how the room is just set up and it's easy for me just to record now. Things are fairly well set up. Ollie and Mango just come into the scene. I've got the cool Creature from the Black Lagoon poster up there. I love that. It's just so cool. Classic movie. I love all those old horrors. But anyway, along with the show, we'll just get into it. We've got Dethklok, Brendan Smalls, and this is just such a cool tone. We're in standard tuning, but it's down to C, which is 2 steps lower. EMG 81 and 85 in this guitar. That's what Brendan Smalls mostly used recording the Dethklok. And getting this tone, it's a really cool tone for such a low tuning. Things have to stay fairly tight and crisp, and it's a little bit dry. And I remember reading an article years ago when Dethklok first came out with the Death Album 1, and there was an interview with Brendan Smalls, and they're saying, how did you get the tone on the album? And he said that he just had one of those really cheap little kidney-shaped Pod XTs, and there was a preset on there called Metallica or Master of Puppets or something. And he just had that plugged in and he used that Pod XT just to record the entire album for that. And I just thought that was so cool that the Boss Katana can do this really well, and I'm so happy with the tone that I came out of it. I've got 2 tones there. One is the actual tone for when you've got headphones on and you're actually doing recording and tracking. And the other tone is one for when you're just playing live in the room and you want a little bit more thump, you want a little bit more gain and things. And it's nice just to step back from fairly intense episodes. Like the one last week using the Empress Para EQ, I really enjoyed it, but it's a lot of work and it's fairly intense, and that was pretty much my entire weekend gone, just dedicated to making that video. It's really cool and fresh just to come in and have some fun and just dial in tones like this, like the Dethklok using the Boss Katana. But the routing I've got for today's video, I'm using my classic Lamb guitar, and that's going straight into the Boss Katana Mark II. That's outputted through the 2 Notes Torpedo Captor X, which is simulating my Marshall 1936V cabinet there with the Celestion vintage speakers in it. It's also outputted at really low volume just in the room. This is how loud it is. Just so Ollie and Mango don't miss out. They love Thunder Horse, don't you, mate? That's a good song. But anyway, let's just play some riffs. I think Brendan Smalls did an amazing job making the Dethklok. Those riffs are just so fun. That Thunder Horse, that's amazing. Ever since I first heard it when Guitar Hero 2 came out and I was playing it there with my nephew and I come across Thunder Horse and I'm thinking, this is awesome. Who the hell did this? And I went back and I was Googling it all and working out things about it and then come across the cartoon. I was just in hysterics. I just thought it was just so cool. It's so metal. It's just everything that it should be. But the riffs are so fun to play and the Boss Katana Mark II does an awesome job and I just wanted to share that with you today. But actually getting this tone, and usually when I build a tone like this using the Boss Katana Tone Studio, I'd go through and I'd use like the brown tone. I think that's a really good tone, but for this I've gone through the clean channel and we're using I think the metalcore pedal, like a distortion in the very front of it. And it just, as soon as I plugged that in and I worked it out, I'm just like, that's it right there, that's perfect. So, and then on the input EQ going into that, I've just taken away some of the values in the 250 range and I've bumped them up around the 500 or 1K range, just so the guitar seems to have a little bit more punch and definition and doesn't come through saggy going into the front end. And then on the output, I've just sort of scooped things slightly. It's a classic sort of scoop tone. It really is like a Master of Puppets style tone. So it's just such a classic album and the riffs are just so cool. And things like, do you folks like coffee? Ultimate flavor. Like it just cracks me up, the whole Nathan explosion. And then it's so random with things like the Mermaider, like that. So fun, but these are other favourite riffs that I love playing. And none of those songs are hard to play. They're just really fun, but they just sound so cool when you crank them up and you got the right tone. But what I'll do now, I'll just play through the other tone that I've got. It's just like more of a live tone that I have when I'm just sitting here jamming out and I'm not recording. When you record, things sound over distorted and really messy, but when you want them in the room, you just want a little bit more flab on that tone. You just want a little bit more gain, a bit more growl. But this is the other tone. And that is just so epic and heavy, but I'm really disappointed they didn't go back and finish the whole Dethklok saga. I'm sure they will one day. I want to see what happened to Turkey, but so for now, anyone that's interested in trying to learn how to sweep pick, I'll do my best just to give some tips and tricks on how I actually learnt it. I actually learned how to sweep pick from Dethklok, from Brendan Smalls, but it was actually Swizgar doing the lesson for the Duncan Hills coffee jingle. It came with a Guitar World DVD back in the years back. And I was just amazed how simple things are when you don't try and sweep across the whole fretboard. And the way that he showed it, and I thought it was really cool. A lot of people say that when you sweep pick, you actually change directions with it and you do different things with it. So the trick that I found that worked the easiest with sweep picking was just get used to that inside-outside style picking, because you've got to change directions, but you're going this way, and then when you come back, you've got to actually skip that string and go back to the B and the E. So it's like an inside-outside John Petrucci style lesson, like the whole. And exercises like that teach you, because it's only 2 hits per string and you're always alternate picking. And so every time you skip a string, your pick is actually going the wrong way. And so they're very difficult at the start. I'll just play it really slowly. You can see, because you just keep that alternate picking and you've only got 2 successive notes per string and then you've got to skip another one, you often find yourself in a really difficult place where you don't want to keep the alternate picking going. You want to just stop and then be a down up again, or an up down, just to suit the way that you want to come into that next string. But that was a really good exercise that worked really well for me, just to play quite fluently, and you don't have to care whether you start the riff on an upstroke or a downstroke. It makes no difference to you. And I find that's one of the strengths that I've found with my playing so far, is I've just managed to work that inside-outside string skipping, picking thing. And it really does help, but it helps a lot with sweep picking, because it's the same thing when you come down. Because you can cleanly come down, but you're going back on that B string and you're not losing any of your timing issues or anything like that. You do start slow, but you'll get a lot quicker, and you can just drag it really quickly, and you can get around really fast. And these 3-note arpeggios are really fun and they sound really clean and they're pretty impressive, I guess. It's actually really simple and a lot easier than I ever thought it was going to be. But just dragging through. When it comes time to moving up to the next fret, I don't actually go back to the very start. Did you see that? With a usual arpeggio, you usually go back to the start. But with this one, I don't go back to the start. I actually finish on the second note there, and that allows you to drag it up. And it's a good habit just to make music out of your arpeggios and just move the shapes around and just do it. And it's actually really difficult to go at that sort of pace, but that's probably the hardest pace to play arpeggios. Is just like a medium sort of pace, or a medium fast pace, where you're not just ripping through them, you're actually playing them with intention, and you got to hit every note because you can really hear the mistakes. So just practice that and move the shapes around, but before you know it, you'll be really fast and you'll just have some crazy arpeggios. Impress everyone. Anyway, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed the show. You can download those presets from the description below. I'll add them to the classics playlist. Enjoy it, have fun, think about what amp you'd like me to play next. But until then, guys, take care, have a great weekend, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.